Today, I'm going to take slashing, piercing, blunt, and elemental weapons and take them up against every monster that spawns in all the biomes in Valheim to show you which weapon you should be using on each monster. Ladies and gentlemen, protein shakes, keyboard warriors, and photographers, welcome to another Timoredbeard video. Today, I'm going over the slashing, piercing, etc. damages of different weapons and what is the most effective type of damage to use against different monsters. This is a part 1 of a video. Part 2 is going to come out where I'm going to talk about bosses and the best weapons to use against bosses. But for now, this is just monsters. If you do like this video, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and don't forget to press that notification bell. Let's jump straight into it. We're going to go on a monster by monster basis with umbrellas of each biome. And I will test each type of damage against each monster, tell you guys what the best weapon is to use against that monster. So first up, we have Grey Dwarves. Grey Dwarves share their weaknesses and resistances with Grey Dwarf Shamans and Grey Lings. So we have tried piercing with the ult Atgeir and also piercing mixed with blunt with the Porcupine. We've tried pure blunt with some elemental damage with Frostner, and we've tried pure slashing with the Black Metal Sword. Now, the clear leader against Grey Dwarves and their kin is the Black Metal Sword. Pure slashing damage deals the most amount of damage to these monsters. And this extends to be the same with Grey Dwarf Brutes as well, so focus on using slashing damage weapons when you're trying to fight anything Grey Dwarf related. Using the exact same batch of weapons, it was time to try it out on Trolls, and Trolls quite clearly are very, very weak to piercing damage. So get yourself a spear or an Atgeir or a Porcupine or a bow, and you will find yourself doing the most amount of damage. It was pretty much as expected, but Frostner is far and away the best weapon against skeletons. Not only are skeletons weak to blunt damage, but they're also taking the additional spirit damage from Frostner also. And the exact same rule applies to Rancid Remains. Frostner is the way forward, but otherwise blunt damage and spirit damage. Testing against blobs and their elite counterparts, they are weak to blunt damage. They aren't affected by spirit damage in the way the skeletons are, but they still take a whole heap of damage from blunt. Now, Draugr are an interesting one because Draugr are affected by the spirit damage of Frostner. However, they are weaker to piercing damage than they are blunt damage. So I was finding that my initial damage numbers were definitely higher using the Atgeir and stabbing with it than they were with using Frostner. But we did have the DOT damage and the frost effect from Frostner. So whilst the Atgeir is definitely the more effective weapon in outright combat, you'd just be enough fine using Frostner due to the utility that it provides. Draugr Elite, on the other hand, did seem to take a little more damage from the sword and slashing damage than they did piercing. Don't know whether the values are just very minusculely different, so that there's a slight change there, but the sword is the premium way to attack Draugr, which would make me think, or Draugr Elite, sorry, which would make me think that the Silver Sword is actually the prime weapon for Draugr Elites, as the Silver Sword, of course, does slashing damage and spirit damage. Oh, and as a heads up, don't do Spawn Valkyrie. Wraiths and their lesser counterparts, Ghosts, seem resistant to pretty much everything. They are affected by spirit damage, but only a little, and everything else doesn't seem to do a huge amount of damage to them. Though the piercing damage definitely came out on top, but it was still resisted and not very much. I would say that your best bet is to use a bow and silver arrows if you really want to kill wraiths. though they're few and far between, so I wouldn't massively worry about making sure you've got silver arrows on you just in case a wraith turns up. Leeches seem to die to pretty much anything pretty much straight away, so you know, whatever weapon you got on you is fine. When it comes to wolves, porcupine was the clear winner, and that is probably due to the fact that the wolves do not have any weaknesses or resistances. They are just neutral across the board, and because of that, the increased stats of the porcupine being very, very high with the combo of blunt and piercing probably just means that it performs better. So whatever weapon you want really, but the porcupine will perform best. Fenring fulfill that classic old trope of being weak to silver. They are werewolves, and they are affected heavily by spirit damage, so high recommendation to use Frostner, or even better, a silver sword when trying to deal with Fenring. Stone golems are a unique one. They aren't specifically weak to a type of damage as much as they're specifically weak to a type of weapon, and that is a pickaxe. If you want to fight a stone golem, I recommend that you run at it with a pickaxe. And if you want to cheese him, you can jump off of a high area to land on top of the stone golem and then just pickaxe straight into his brain, if he has a brain, and it's a pretty easy fight. Honorable little mention to drakes here as part of the mountain biome crew. They weren't spawning in for me. Not entirely sure why, but shoot them with a bow. You're gonna have a hard time trying to get to them with a melee weapon. Shoot them with a bow. On to serpents though. They appear to be weakest to slashing damage, so make sure that you're using a good sword or a good axe and you'll have no problem at all. Locks have very tough hides and appear to have the biggest weakness to piercing damage, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's smart. My recommendation to you is to run a bow with frost arrows when dealing with locks, a good quality Draugr with frost arrows, and you'll be dealing with locks no problem, and you will be at a safe distance. Locks hit very, very hard. In the testing, all goblins, or fulings of all kinds, from the smallest to the biggest, all are weakest to slashing damage. However, if you are trying to fight any more than a small group of them, I would again highly recommend running a tiered up Draugr bow and frost arrows. Fulings, no matter how good your armor is, will hit hard, especially the Zerkers, because they will stun lock you. But if you do desperately want to get into melee with some fulings, highly recommend the black metal sword as your only option. So there you have it. All of the monsters in the game, the weapons that are best against them. One thing that really surprised me throughout the testing today is that actually the Atgear, especially the black metal Atgear, is an incredibly versatile and effective weapon. It has a great parry multiplier. It can do both piercing damage with a good amount of reach and slashing damage with a huge AoE. And it doesn't make you any less maneuverable than using a sword and shield or an axe and shield or, you know, a mace and shield. I personally think I'm going to start using the Atgear a whole lot more. If you have any thoughts, any things that I may have missed in this video, please do chuck a comment in the section below. I'd love to hear your feedback or your words of wisdom. But that's it from me. I've been Timoredbeard. Please do like, subscribe, and don't forget to caress that notification bell if you have enjoyed this video. I do stream on Twitch from Tuesday through to Saturday, starting at 12 PM GMT. I would love to catch you there. Also, in the description below, you'll find the Patreon and the Discord. If you want to support me further, check those links out. Have a look at the Patreon, join the Discord, become a part of the fantastic community that we're growing here under the Timoredbeard name. Thank you so much, guys. Peace out. Take care.